Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Jaya Radha Shiva Radha Shiva Shri Radhe, Jaya Radha Shiva Radha Shiva Shri Radhe, Jaya Gaura Nitai Gaura Nitai Gaura Nitai, Jaya Gaura Nitai, Jaya Gaura Nitai, Jaya Gaura Nitai, Gaura Nitai, Jaya Gaura Nitai, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Gurudev, 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev, Jaya Jaya Gurudev, 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev.
You just move forward if you can. There's a lot of space here. Because we come later, they can sit behind.
Just offer Pranamanta Srila Prabhupada, Namo Vishnupadaya, Krishna Krishna Bhutale, Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namine, Namaste Saraswati Deve, Gaurvani Krisharina, Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pachatra Devasarina. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar, Shri Vashali Gaura Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Gurave Gautandaya, Radhikaya, Hare Krishna, Krishna Bhaktaya, Bhaktaya, Namo Namah. Hare Krishna, dear devotees, thank you for coming to the Sunday Feast program. Today we are going to speak about the holy name. The topic is taking shelter of the holy name, and this topic is especially relevant in this month of Kartik because we are just in the last 1 week of Kartik month remaining, and I thought I will just say something about the glories of the holy name and how one should take shelter. Who is here for the first time? You are here for the first time. Anybody else? Okay, and myself. Thank you. So one of our acharyas, Srila Krishna Chakravarti Thakur, he writes in one of the commentaries to Srimad Bhagavatam that in the stages of devoting ourselves to Krishna, there are 6 stages. The first stage for a beginner, the first stage is he devotes his time to Krishna. So, Prabhu, that you came here, you could have done so many other things, but the fact that you came here to Krishna is very pleasing to Krishna, especially in the month of Kartik. So, thank you for coming. And so, that's just the first stage, beginning stages, first coming, giving your time to Krishna, right? The second stage is once someone comes to the temple, then he hears, he said, okay, let me hear something, let me hear about some nice bhajans, let me hear some Krishna katha, then we hear some philosophical talks. So that's the second stage, giving our ears to Krishna. That's the second stage. So this is all progressive, like one by one. The third stage is giving our giving our tongue to Krishna. So we chant the holy name. We use our tongue to honor prasadam. So that's the third stage. Fourth stage is giving our mind to Krishna. We think about Krishna, we meditate on Krishna, we try to understand the different aspects of Krishna, his name, form, qualities, pastimes. That's the fourth. The fifth one is giving our heart to Krishna, right? And the last is karmana, vacha, the thoughts, actions, and deeds. So the three things that we give. So that's the final. And the way to accomplish all of this is to basically by chanting the holy name of the Lord. Lord Krishna 5,000 years ago, after he departed, and he appeared again 500 years ago as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And so these are the two deities on the left side. There is on the left side raised arms. So the deity on the right is Lord Chaitanya, and the one to his left is Lord Nityananda. So they are incarnations of Lord Krishna Balaram. So this is the formula that has been given to us. Now, technically speaking, since we are all devotees of Krishna, we are also called Vaishnavas. But there are various definitions of who a good Vaishnava is, who is a perfect Vaishnava. And Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, it is mentioned that a perfect Vaishnava is one who always keeps the holy name of Lord Sri Krishna in the tongue. And when I said the holy name is basically the Maha Mantra that he chanted, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Mahaprabhu says, Krishna Nam Nirantar Jar Bodhane, this is a Bengali verse, Se Vaishnav Shrestha Bhoja Tahar Charane. See, Krishna Nam Nirantar means continuously. And if you read any of the Srila Prabhupada's books, he always writes, chant continuously, chant incessantly, chant non-stop. So this is the formula that one who chants the holy name of Krishna or vibrates the holy name of Krishna in his tongue, always, Nirantar. Anti means anti, Nirantar means no end. Always, that's the first class Vaishnava. And what do we do with such Vaishnava? Bhoja Tahar Charane. He worships his lotus feet. So that's the formula that has been given by Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. There are various scriptures in ISKCON, and one of very fundamental scriptures is the Nectar of Devotion, which is basically a Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, translated. The summary translation of that is given by Srila Prabhupada as Nectar of Devotion. And in that, there are 64 limbs of bhakti, right? The things that you should do to perform bhakti to Krishna. There are 64 limbs. We call it limbs, or you could say 64 processes to do or 64 actions to do. There are 64 things, but in the age of, but in this age of Kali Yuga, to keep it very simple, the author of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, he basically condensed that to 5 main things. So 64, he brought it down to 5. Panchanga Bhakti is basically Sadhu Sangha, Sadhu Sangha Nam Kirtan, Bhagavad Shravan, Mathura Vas, Sri Murti, Shraddhaya, Shevan. So those 64 limbs are condensed into 5. And what are these 5? One is Sadhu Sangha, you associate with devotees. The fact that you all came here today and hearing Krishna Katha and taking participation in the temple program, that's basically a symptom of Sadhu Sangha. You associate with like-minded devotees. So that's number 1, Sadhu Sangha. Next is Nam Kirtan, chanting the holy name. That we are all today sitting here and chanting the holy name, that's Nam Kirtan. Sadhu Sangha, Nam Kirtan. Third is Bhagavad Shravan. Our main primary scripture or the core scripture of this Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya is Srimad Bhagavatam or Bhagavad Puran. So that's our main scripture. So the studying of that scripture is another limb of bhakti. The fourth is Mathura Vas. Mathura Vas means you reside in some holy place like a dham. For Vaishnavas is Jagannath Puri, Vrindavan, Navadvip, Mayapur, Mathura, and so on. So that's the fourth one. And the fifth one, Srimurti. Srimurti Shraddhaya Sevan. Srimurti means the deity form, the Shavigraha form, the Lord. And how do you worship them? With faith, Shraddhaya. So these are the 5 limbs of bhakti that have been condensed from 64. Sadhu Sangha, Nam Kirtan, Bhagavad Shravan, Mathura Vas, and Srimurti. So these are the Panchanga Bhakti. And if you have to, you may say, you know what, these are 5, I cannot do that, I cannot live in Mathura, I do not have time to study Srimad Bhagavatam, I do not not qualified to worship the deity. So what should I do? Tell me one single thing, right? So our acharyas are very compassionate. They said, okay, fine, even if you cannot do these 5, we'll give you only one. So out of these 5, the most important thing is Nam Kirtan, chanting the holy name of the Lord. So that's called Ekanga Bhakti. 64 limbs condensed to Panchanga Bhakti, 5 limbs, and then again condensed to 1 limb, which is Nam Kirtan, chanting the holy name of the Lord, right? And Srila Prabhupada says that in all of his books that 99% of our spiritual progress in this age of Kali Yuga depends on the chanting of the holy name of the Lord. In Satya Yuga, people used to live for 100,000 years, and they used to meditate on Lord Sri Krishna or any form of the Lord. So that was in the Satya Yuga. And in Treta Yuga, they used to perform sacrifices, massive sacrifices. And in Dwapara Yuga, they used to worship the deity form of the Lord. But in Kali Yuga, where life is very, very short, even though life expectancy is 100 years, people do not live that long. Average life expectancy is about 65, 70, 75, that's all. So you really don't have time and the mental ability to do all these intense sacrifices for thousands of years, or meditation, or elaborate deity worship. So the formula for this age is just chanting the holy name of the Lord. It is said, Hare Nam, Hare Nam, Hare Namava Kevalam, Kalau Nasteva, Nasteva, Nasteva Gatiranyatha. And this is repeated 3 times, that there is no other way, there is no other way, there is no other way than chanting the holy name of the Lord. So this is why whenever you go to any ISKCON temple, you may wonder, why do they chant the same mantra over and over again so many times? Because this is what has been prescribed to us. This is coming from the parampara, from our acharyas. Now, so as I said, an ideal Vaishnava is someone who chants the holy name of the Lord always. In ISKCON, the prescribed minimum number of rounds is 16. You chant 16 rounds of the Mahamantra, and 1 round is like 108 beats. So you keep on repeating that. But ideally, in all of ideal recommendation is you chant always. Like Mahaprabhu said, Kirtanya Sadahari. He did not say Kirtanya Hari. He said Kirtanya Sadahari, always. Because in this Kali Yuga, it's very difficult for us to fight with all the Maya and material modes of nature. So the only way for us to get full protection is chanting the holy name of the Lord always. You may not always have the beads on your hand. You can chant it while even you are cooking, you are driving, you are taking a walk, you are doing any activity, you should keep it. It's not so easy because our tongue is not used to chanting the holy name of the Lord 24 hours a day. Because due to past conditioning, we have used the tongue for so many, I would say, not proper things, like talking Brahmya Katha talk, or talking about worldly activities, talking about mundane subjects. So the tongue is not used to it. So it's a matter of practice. You keep on practicing, and then over a period of time, you become perfect. And even in Srila Prabhupada's books, he always said, chant continuously, chant incessantly, chant always. You'll always find a common theme in Srila Prabhupada's books. And whenever Srila Prabhupada writes these mentions about Mahamantra, he has been very, very careful to mention the full Mahamantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. The thought process is, if someone, let's say someone is not a devotee, never been exposed to devotion, but if he gets one book of Srila Prabhupada, right, and he just manages to read one book, one page, and in it the Mahamantra written, he reads Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, and let's say he dies at the end of the day. So the fact that he read only one page of Srila Prabhupada's book, and then he read this Mahamantra one time, that will basically liberate him. It will give him tremendous benefit. Maybe he will not have to take a human birth again. That's why Prabhupada has been very, very careful to put the whole Mahamantra in his books. So, because whenever sometimes we read, why is Srila Prabhupada repeating the same Mahamantra over and over again? We know it. But no, it's not for us, it's for new beginners, people who have not read the books. They may only get a chance to read the book only once. So that's why Srila Prabhupada has been very mercifully putting the whole Mahamantra in his books. Now, the question is, devotees, what is the best time to chant the Hare Krishna mantra? Is it early in the morning? Is it late in the evening? Is it during the midday? What is the best time? And Mahaprabhu says, again, is a verse from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Khaite suite jata thata namlo, kala desha niyam nahi, sarva siddhi hoy. Khaite means while eating, suite means while sleeping. This is Bengali verse. Even while eating and sleeping, you should chant the holy name of the Lord. Kala desha niyam nahi. Kala means there is no consideration of time, and desh means there is no consideration of place. wherever you are, in whatever time you are, you just chant the holy name of the Lord. Then what happens? Sarva Siddhi hoy. Sarva means complete, Siddhi means perfection, hoy means you achieve. So even if you chant the holy name of the Lord always, you will achieve all perfection, even if you don't do any other forms of bhakti, right? Even in the four limbs that I mentioned, like Sadhu Sangha, Bhagavad Shravan, Mathura Bas, and Sri Murti's Sevan, it has got aspect of the holy name. Sadhu Sangha, when you associate devotees, what do? You chant the holy name, right? So Sadhu Sangha includes the holy name. Bhagavad Shravan, when you study Srimad Bhagavatam, what is the essence of Srimad Bhagavatam? It's the holy name, right? In the very first verse of Srimad Bhagavatam, what does it start with? Om Namah Bhagavate Vasudevaya. That's the chanting of the holy name. And what is the last verse of Srimad Bhagavatam? Anybody remembers? Very last verse. You remember? I will find out one second. I thought I wrote it down. So that's the very last verse. It says, Nam Sankirtanam Yasya Sarva Papa Pranashanam Pranamo Dukha Samanas Tam Namami Harim Pradam. This is the very last verse that Srila Sukdev Goswami says to Parikshit Maharaj, just before Parikshit Maharaj was about to give up his body. The meaning of that is, let us offer our humble obeisances to the Supreme Lord Hari, the congregational chanting of whose holy names destroys all sinful reactions. So Srimad Bhagavatam, it starts with the chanting of the holy name and it ends with the holy name. And in between, in different places, you will find how chanting of the holy name is glorified. And I'm going to quote a couple of verses later on in this class. So that's why. So I mentioned that Sadhu Sangha includes chanting of the holy name, Bhagavad Shravan includes chanting of the holy name, and then Mathura Bas. In a holy name, what do? You basically hear and chant. So hearing of the holy name is included in that limb as well. And finally, Sri Murti Seva. The worship of the deities is not complete without the chanting of the holy name. You make your bhoga offering to the Lord, you chant the holy name. You perform deity worship, you chant the holy name. You wake up the deities in the morning, you chant the holy name. You put the deities to rest in the evening, you chant the holy name. So the chanting of the holy name is included all the limbs of bhakti. And that's why Mahaprabhu said, just chant the holy name of the Lord, because there is no other way in this age of Kali Yoga. You guys are following me? Okay, thank you. Now, the importance of chanting the holy name is found everywhere in all the scriptures, predominantly in our scriptures, but it's there in all the scriptures. While growing up, I went to a Catholic missionary school in India, and the very first prayer that we used to pray in the morning is, Our Father in heaven, holy be your name. So that's the thing. The first thing in the morning, in the school, we say this prayer, holy be your name. Oh my Father, the Lord, your name is all holy, so let your name be glorified. I lived in Middle East for a few years, in Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, in a few places, and there the very pious Muslims, they would keep a chanting beach on their hands. What do? It is said there are 99 names of Allah, and they chant the names of Allah in their beads. So they also chant the holy name of the Lord. It's there in all the scriptures. And the 99 names of Allah are very similar to our names of God. It's basically describe the qualities of the Lord. The Lord is all merciful, the Lord is omniscient, the Lord is compassionate, the Lord is the supreme, the Lord is more powerful. Same concept, just they are termed differently in Arabic language. And in our scriptures, it's there in all the scriptures. In Bhagavad Gita, what is the famous verse? Satatam kirtayantumam, always chanting my glories. That's a very popular verse in our Bhagavad Gita. And then in the Nectar of Instruction, there is another verse, Nectar of Instruction, verse 8. People who are doing Bhakti Shastra, you will encounter this. There is this particular sloka, it says, Tan Nama Rupa Charita Adi Sukirtananam. Tan Nama Charita Adi means basically you chant the holy name of the Lord, Tan Nama, Rupa, the form of the Lord, and Charita Adi. Charita means other character, and the character or personalities, and Adi means etc. So Nectar of Devotion also mandate that one glorify the chanting of the holy name of the Lord. And then in Srimad Bhagavatam, there is a very beautiful verse. It says, Etan nirvidyamananam ichatamakuto bhayam yoginam ripanirnitam harer namanu kirtanam. Harer namanu kirtanam. You chant the holy name of Lord Hari. And who says this? Sukdev Goswami says this to Parikshit Maharaj. What does it mean? It says constant chanting. Again, note, it doesn't say just chanting. It says constant chanting. constant chanting of the holy name of the Lord. When you chant the holy name of the Lord, you basically have to follow some predecessors, right? You just cannot randomly make your own rules and regulations about the chanting of the holy name of the Lord. So you have to follow some acharyas. So Srila Sukdev Goswami says, constant chanting of the holy name of the Lord after the ways of the great authorities, right? So you should really follow the parampara system. If you chant the holy name of the Lord, what happens? This is the doubtless and fearless way of success for all. Doubtless, there is no doubt about it, and fearless, there is no fear about it. You will achieve success. So that's the power of chanting the holy name of the Lord. And there are various pastimes in Srimad Bhagavatam where the glories of the chanting of the holy name is kind of stressed upon, right? And who should chant the holy name of the Lord? People with material desires, people with no material desires, people who are striving for impersonal liberation. Who should? And Srila Sukdev Goswami again qualifies that same verse. He says, including those, that means everybody should chant the holy name of the Lord. Who should? Those who are free from all material desires. If you have no material desires, you really want to serve the Lord, you should chant. And even if you are full of material enjoyment, he said, those who are desirous of all material enjoyment, even if you are full of material enjoyment, still you should chant. Because over a period of time, as you keep on chanting, all the material desires will be washed away. So your desires become purified. So devotees who have spiritual desires, people who have no material desires, people who have full of material desires, and those who are self-satisfied by dint of transcendental knowledge. The devotees or personalities who are self-satisfied, they are Atmaram, right? They have achieved anything, they have achieved the Brahma Buddha platform. Even they should chant the holy name of the Lord. It's not that the chanting of the holy name of the Lord and it's only for this material plane. Once you go to the spiritual plane, there is no chanting of the holy name of the Lord. There is. What do the associates of Krishna do? They are always chanting the glories of the Lord. The Gopas, the Gopis, they are always chanting. So this chanting of the holy name of the Lord is eternal. It should always go on. That's why Srila Sukdev Goswami says, constant chanting. Right? It's not a one-time activity. But the effect of Kali Yuga is such that because of past conditioning, we tend to minimize the potency of the chanting of the holy name of the Lord. In Mahabharata, there is this brief interaction between Yudhishthir Maharaj and Yamaraj, where Yamaraj asks Yudhishthir Maharaj, what is the most wonderful thing in this world? Yamaraj asks Yudhishthir Maharaj, what is the most wonderful thing in this world? And the Pandavas, different brothers, gave different answers, but finally it came to Yudhishthir Maharaj because Yamaraj was not satisfied with the answers. So he finally asked this question to Yudhishthir Maharaj, what is the most wonderful thing in the world? And Yudhishthir Maharaj says, Ahani ahani bhutani gachanti yamalayam shesha sthavaram icchanti kim ascharyam ataparam. Oh, the most wonderful thing is this, that every day hundreds and thousands of people are dying. You look around, people are dying. But the most wonderful thing is that we think I'm not going to die. Let everybody die. Everybody is dying, but I'm not going to die so soon. I will die someday, but I'm not going to die so soon. And what will I do? I have lots of material desires. I want a green card. I want to buy a house. I want to go to a good college. I want to have a nice job. I want to give a very good quality of life to my children. So there is endless material desires. All on the misconception that I'm never going to die. I have enough time to fulfill all the desires. And that's what Yudhishthira Maharaj says is the most wonderful thing in the world. We see people around us dying always, but we think we are not going to die. We are immortal. So that's the most important, that's the most wonderful thing. And do you know what is even more wonderful than this? And this is mentioned in one of the scriptures. But even what is more wonderful than this? It is this very beautiful verse. It says, Shulabham, I will explain this verse. Shulabham Bhagavan Nama Jivasa Vasa Vartini Tathapi Nalakapi Antyam Kim Ascharya Mathaparam. Shulabham. Labham means available. It's available. And Su means very easily. Very easily available. What is very easily available? Bhagavan Nam, the holy name of the Lord. Right? The holy name of the Lord is very easily available. Shulabham Bhagavan Nama. And what else is available? Jiva, the tongue. Where is it available? Sa Vasa Murtini. The tongue in the mouth is also available. The holy name is available. The tongue in everyone's mouth The mouth is fitted with the tongue. Everyone has a tongue, and the holy name is available. Both of these things are available. But still, people manage to go to the hell. What could be more wonderful than this? Exactly, that's a translation. He said, you have the holy name, you have the tongue, which allows you to chant the holy name of the Lord, still you go to hell. That means we don't want to chant the holy name of the Lord. So that's even more wonderful, most wonderful thing in this world, right? There's a very common example. It says that, let's say that village, you go to any Indian village, they are not very developed, you do not have proper health care. And let's say villager says, I think I've got a headache, I think I've got BP, high blood pressure, what should I do? And there is a learned person in that village, he will say, you know what, drink some lime juice, you will be cured, don't worry, it's okay. You may be dehydrated, you may have low in calcium, potassium, drink some lime juice. But the person, no, how can this be so simple? I mean, there has to be some better treatment. I don't believe you. So the disease is there, the solution to the disease is there, simple solution, but people don't want to take it. Similarly, in this Kali Yuga, the holy name is there, very easy. That is what is recommended in this age, that one should chant the holy name of the Lord. But people think, oh no, how can it, such a simple thing be so effective? No, we should do intense meditation, we will do austerities. Now we are following the Chaturmasya period, last month of Chaturmasya, and I have seen devotees who don't eat anything in these 4 months. They just survive on fruits and a little bit of milk and juice. I mean, what is the use? There are devotees who do a nirjal fasting with no water, but they don't chant the holy name of the Lord. What is the use? Right? There are people who are interested in very complicated, troublesome yagyas, fire yagyas, but they don't want to chant the holy name of the Lord. So this is the problem, because of our past conditioning. When we are given something very easy, we don't want to take it. We want to just focus on the most difficult things. So it takes really a mindset change to really understand that simple could be most effective, right? Something so simple could be most effective. So this is the symptom of Kali Yuga, that the holy name is given to you, the tongue to chant the holy name of the Lord is given to you, but you don't want to chant it. So this is the most wonderful thing. And the scriptures also explain the how holy name, there is no equality to the holy name. Holy name has there is nothing that can come close to the holy name. Holy name is so high. There is a very beautiful verse that I found in Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. I'll quote this. It says, Gokoti danam grahane khagasya prayaga gangodaka kalpa vashaha yagyayutam meru suvarna danam Govinda Kirtana Samam Satam Sai. So the translation is Go Koti. Go means cows, Koti means millions. In Hindi we say crores. In this part of the country we say millions. And what do you do? There Go Koti Danam, charity. You offer charity, 10,000 millions of cows in charity, right? When? Grahane means eclipse. Of what eclipse? Lunar eclipse, solar eclipse. It's Khagas says solar eclipse. Even if one distributes 10 million cows in charity during an eclipse of the sun. Or Prayaga Gangotaka Kalpabasha. Prayaga means the Prayaga in India. It is basically the place where Ganga and Jamuna meets. So if you live at the confluence of Ganga and Jamuna, that is, it's called Allahabad, now it's been again changed back to Prayagraj. So Prayag Gangotaka Kalpabasha. Kalpa means it's like, and this age called Kalpa. It's a Brahma's one day is called Kalpa, right? Brahma's one day?
I think a kalpa is just a living.
Okay, anyway, it's a long duration of time.
Like 4 million years.
Right. So it's a long duration. And even if you live in Prayag at the confluence of Ganges and Yamuna, the two most holy rivers for millions of years, right? And, or Yagyayutam. Yagyayutam means you perform sacrifices. What kind of sacrifices? Meru. Meru means mountain, Mount Meru. And then Suvarna means gold. Or if you give a mountain of gold of sacrifice to the Brahmanas, right? All of this cannot be equal to what? Govinda Kirtan, the chanting of the holy name. How much of the holy name? Satam Sai means 100 of the holy name. So even if that means if you distribute 10 millions of cows on eclipse, if you recite for millions of years at the confluence of Ganga and Yamuna, or if you give a mountain of gold to Brahmanas that can never equal to the chanting of the holy name of the Lord. And not the full holy name of the Lord, only one part of the holy name of the Lord. So that's how powerful the chanting of the holy name of the Lord is. Keeping the time in mind, I go back to I'll change the track a little bit. In our ISKCON, there are so many personalities, not only ISKCON, in overall in the history, in creation, and especially in ISKCON, by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, we have got so many saintly personalities for whom holy name meant everything. Right? In Srimad Bhagavatam, we read about Ajamil, right, who was delivered, but just by chanting the holy name of the Lord. Ajamil, if you know, he was a very simple person in his early part of his life. No, he was a very good Brahman in his early part of his life. And then later on became a very simple person because he married a prostitute and he got into so many sinful activities. So he led a very, very sinful life. And so much so that he gave up his parents, he gave up his chaste wife, and he had bore about 10 children from his prostitute wife. And the youngest son is called Narayan. And when he was about to die, the Yamadutas, the messengers of Yamaraj, they came to take him away. And in fear, he called out his son Narayan. Narayan, Narayan. And what happens? Immediately the Vishnu Dutas, the messengers of Lord Vishnu came. And they said, Yamadutas, you cannot take him. We will take him. He cannot go to hell. Yamadutas said, how is it possible? He is such a sinful person. Mention any sin that he has not committed. It's all there. How can he not go to hell? He said, no, he has chanted the holy name of the Lord. And the Yamadutas, they were not really conversant with the principles of religions. They were not sure what to do. So they went to Yamaraj. He said, Yamaraj, you said anybody who is very sinful, you said drag them away to hell. But here we were able to drag one person, but some very beautiful four personalities came and stopped us. I mean, what's going on? I mean, what are we supposed to do? And Yamaraj, he gave a very beautiful verse. He says, one second. So Yamaraj says, it's a very beautiful verse. It says, Jivana Bhakti Bhagavad Guna Namadeyan. Chetas Chanas Marati Tas Chalanara Vindam. Krishna no Namati Yat Shira Ekadapi Tan Anayatvam Asato Akrita Vishnu Kritan. Which means Yamaraj said, right, only bring to me those people. Who are those people? Jivana Bhakti. People who have the tongue, but what they do not use it for what? Bhagavad Guna Namadeyan. They have the tongue but do not use the tongue to chant the glories of the holy name of the Lord. Bring me those people. Who are the second class of people? Chetas Chanas Marati Tas Charanavindam. People who do not remember the holy name of Lord Krishna in their heart even once. Bring me those people. And who are the third class of people? Krishna no Namati, who do not offer obeisances to Krishna. Right? In the temple when you come, we should offer obeisances. Krishna no Namati Yat Shira Ekadapi. They do not use their head to offer obeisances to the Lord. If you find these three people who do not use their tongue to chant the holy name, people who do not remember the lotus feet of Krishna in their heart even once, and people who do not use their head to bow down to Krishna, bring them to me. Everybody else, you just let them go. These are the most sinful persons, and bring them to me. So again, Yamaraj is saying that the chanting of the holy name is so important that even one who chants the holy name of the Lord, he should not be touched. And what to speak of someone, the devotees like us, who are always chanting the holy name of the Lord. They have the tilak on their head, they have the kantimala on their necks, they are always taking Bhagavad Prasadam, the Mahaprasadam, they are reading the scriptures. I mean, what could be more pious than this? And then what does Srila Sukdev Goswami says in the same Ajamil story? Srila Sukdev Goswami says, Mriya Mano Haranama Gunan Putra Uparachitam Ajamilo Api Agadhama Kim Uta Shraddha Grinan. Mriya Mano. This is Sukdev Goswami saying to Parikshit Maharaj. Mriya Mano. Mriya Mano means at the time of death. What happened at the time of death? Haranama. Ajamil chanted the holy name of the Lord at the time of death. And even it's not the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, he just chants Narayan. And not to the Lord Narayan, he called out his son Narayan. So Mriyamano Haranama It's a Grinan Putra Upacharitam. That means he called out his son. He did not even call out the Lord. He called out his son. What happened? Ajamilo api agad dhama. Even Ajamil, agad means go. To where dhama means Vaikuntha Lok. Even by calling out the name of Lord Narayan, Ajamil went back to Godhead. So Kimuta, where is the doubt? Kimuta means where is the doubt? Doubt of what? Shraddha Grinan, one who chants the holy name of the Lord with faith. Right? Even Ajamil, who could chant the holy name of the Lord indirectly to call out the Son, can be delivered. So what about all the devotees like us who are chanting the holy name of the Lord? And that's what Srila Sukdev Goswami is saying, Kimuta, where is the doubt? Where is the doubt that if one faithfully and offenselessly chants the holy name of the Lord, he will not go back to Godhead? So therefore, devotees, please do not take the holy name of chanting of the holy name of the Lord as such a very simple thing. It's very, very powerful. It has been given to us, a very transcendental gift. Nam Chintamani Krishna. It's a touchstone that has been given to us. So that's how powerful the chanting of the holy name of the Lord is. In our congregation, there used to be a devotee. I don't know how many people know. I'm talking about Deep Prabhu. I know there are some new devotees who may not know who Deep Prabhu is. So Deep Prabhu, in a couple of months ago, he left his body. He was suffering for a long time. He was a disciple of. His mother was a disciple of Srila Prabhupada, and he grew up in the movement. And he has been part of the ISKCON Columbus congregation for many, many years.
Even you took initiation from Kirtan Samar. Dhir Lalita is his initiation name.
Yeah, Dhir Lalita is his name, and then Deep Prabhu is what I will call it, the nickname Dhir Lalita Prabhu. So he was here for a long time, and he was an inspiration to our community. Why? Because he had great taste for chanting the holy name of the Lord. Even if you go to the ISKCON Columbus YouTube channel and just find Dhir Lalita Kirtan, you'll be mesmerized by his kirtan. And one of the reasons why I got so attracted to ISKCON Columbus is because of Deep Prabhu, Dhir Lalita Prabhu. Because when I first heard his kirtan, I was just taken to a different world. He's so good and melodious in his kirtan. And he has been inspiration to this community for many, many years. All these young kids sitting here, somehow or other they have been trained by him, directly or indirectly, how to play musical instruments or how to sing nice kirtan. He trained lots of this upcoming generation in this temple. But unfortunately, 2 years ago, he used to drive truck at night. He has a night shift job, he used to drive truck. And he was in his about 50s, I would say mid-50s. But 2 years ago, just at the peak of pandemic, he had a very terrible accident one night. He was driving, somebody banked his vehicle, and then his truck overturned. And next thing he knew is that he woke up in the hospital in intense pain, paralyzed, chest down. It was a very horrible accident. And we were hopeful that maybe he will recover over a period of time with proper rehabilitation, with proper care. But he did not. It was unfortunate. And the last few months before his passing away, his conditions became very, very severe. He suffered strokes a couple of times, and they had to shift into a specialty center in Dayton, Ohio. He was in Columbus in a hospital, and then he was shifted to Dayton, Ohio, in a specialty hospital meant for such kind of suffering patients. And there came a point of time where the doctor said, you know what, I think he's not going to recover anymore. So you take a call what to do. He was on ventilator support during the last days. He was on ventilator support. He couldn't breathe on his own. He was on life support system. So doctor said, there is no hope of recovery anymore. He's just staying alive with the ventilator. He is out of consciousness. Right? He doesn't know what's happening with him. He cannot walk. He cannot talk to anybody. He cannot eat on his own. He's kind of almost about to give up his body. So you decide what to do. So he had a will where he kind of gave the power of attorney to his sister and some of our senior temple devotees to take the final call. And finally, in consultation, they decided that I think there's no point of having him suffer anymore. We'll take out the life support system. So the date fixed was July of 19th of this year that his life support system will be taken out. And then on that particular day, lost few of the devotees, because it is still pandemic, there were restrictions. in the hospitals, not many people are allowed to visit. So a few select devotees and his immediate family members, we went all there, we chanted the holy name of the Lord, while he was, Navin Krishna Prabhu was there in the room when he was taken out of the life support system. So, and then life support system was taken and his heartbeat dropped drastically to about maybe 60-65 beats per minute, I believe. And then, but when the holy name of the Lord was played, the Srila Prabhupada audio tape, the audio box was played, his heartbeats went up to like 115, 120, which is like amazing. And the devotees were saying that maybe just a matter of time when he's going to leave his body. But he kept on fighting for another next few days. So that was on a Tuesday. So Tuesday he was okay, he kind of still hasn't given up his body. Wednesday was good, Thursday was okay, Friday was okay, and then he was kind of still hanging in there, fighting with his life, even without the life support system, just by the power of the chanting of the holy name of the Lord, right? So on one Saturday, Rajesh Prabhu and I said, you know what, we don't know how he's doing, let's go and see him in Dayton, how he's doing. And his sister is also there with him. His sister is Hispanic, she doesn't know English, she doesn't drive, she was in a hospital. So we were also concerned about her, how is she doing? Is she getting enough food? Where is she getting the food from? How is she going to the hospital? So we were concerned. We said, let's go and see him. So the Saturday morning, early morning, I and Rajesh Prabhu was very close to Deep Prabhu. I was coming to Deep Prabhu, to Rajesh Prabhu. So on the Saturday morning around 8:30, we drove to Dayton, and then he was in a much better shape. He was in much better shape. He was able to at least swallow the water that his sister was giving him. He was in a much better consciousness. The day when the life support system was taken out, he couldn't recognize anyone. But that particular day, he could at least recognize devotees. He could at least communicate with the eyes. When you say Hari Bol, he used to move his tongue. Like he was trying, so he knew that the consciousness was much better than what it was 4 or 5 days ago. So he spent some time with him around until afternoon, like 2 o'clock. We chanted the holy name in his presence, and then we came back. And Rajesh Prabhu and I were talking in the car while driving back. I think there is some hope. Even with the life support system, he is in a much better consciousness. He is able to recognize devotees. He is able to understand what is going on. I think he will be okay. We were so hopeful. He may not recover completely. He was paralyzed, waist down, chest down. He will not recover, but at least maybe he may live longer with proper care, proper support. He may live longer. So he came back late afternoon. I reached Rajesh Prabhu's house because we took one car, and we were very hungry. We did not have breakfast, lunch. So Rajesh Prabhu said, "Don't go home. I'll cook something, and then take some rest and go." I said, "Okay, fine." So in the late afternoon lunch around 3:34, and then I was very tired, and Rajesh Prabhu was also expecting some guests. So I said, "You entertain your guests. I will go upstairs. I will take a small nap, and then I have few rounds to chant." And suddenly, it was not even 10 minutes. He shouts at me, "Hey, wake up, wake up!" I said, "What happened?" He said, "Navin Krishna Prabhu is trying to reach you." I said, "Why?" He said, "Deep Prabhu left his body." I said, "How is it possible? We were there with him a few hours ago. He was doing much better. He was able, even much better consciousness. How is it possible?" So it happened so fast, so soon. We had no time to process. Immediately I called Navin Krishna Prabhu. "Prabhu, what's going on?" He said, "Prabhu, no time to discuss. You go to temple, pick up few Mahagarlands. We'll drive down to Dayton right away." So I and Rajesh Prabhu came to temple. We collected few Mahagarlands. We took some Namrit and whatever Chandrika Pandit Prabhu gave us. Prabhu came to temple, and then we all drove to Dayton. Right? And that particular week, Ramtita Prabhu was not here. He was in Portland, Oregon with Kruti. But he was always on the phone and guiding us. And because we didn't have time to process, we called him. He was saying, "Okay, this is what is happening." And Deep Prabhu left his body, which is very unfortunate. But we had another problem. The hospital said that they cannot keep the body in the hospital because the hospital doesn't have the storage facility to keep that body. So you have to take the body right away. And remember, this is happening in the evening, late afternoon, right? And what do we do? So fortunately, Deep Prabhu's extended family, friend's daughter, she works in a funeral home in Columbus. So Ramtita Prabhu called her. He said, "This is what is happening." The hospital said, "We need to take the body immediately. I mean, by evening. We cannot keep the body overnight. We have no facility." and he will keep the body overnight, it will decompose, it's not good. So she said, not a problem, I'll bring my funeral van, I'll take the body. And then whenever you decide to do the final rites, you let us know. So she came, she drove all the way from Columbus, she took up she picked up the body, and then she took it to a funeral home. And why am I mentioning all the details? Because when we went to Deep Prabhu's room, after he left his body, me, Naveen Krishna Prabhu and Rajesh Prabhu, Deep Prabhu's sister was already there. And there was such an element of peace and calm in the room. And in my life, I've seen many dead bodies. Okay, and the dead bodies, if they're very sinful people, they're not left a very pious life. And that whole room gets very scary, as if there's an element of ghostly spirits in the room. You can feel it. It's the Yamadutas coming to take the body away. But in Deep Prabhu's case, it was very peaceful. His sister said that he died very peacefully, left very peacefully. There was no struggle, nothing. There was a holy name playing on his ear by his back, and he left his body. There was such an element of peace. Even when the body was being taken away at night, there was no sense of fear, no sense of anything. It was such a calm. That means the Lord really took protection of them. And the next day in the temple, when I came, Brajabhakti Mataji asked me, he said, Prabhu, what is your realization? You were so fortunate to be with him in the last few moments of his life. And I don't remember what I said because it happened so fast. It was less than 12 hours. I had no time to process. Although for the last 2-3 months, while I was reflecting, there were a couple of very strong lessons that stood out for me. The Deep Prabhu, he survived 4 days without ventilator support. What does it prove? It means, Rake Hori Mare Ke, Mare Hori Rake Ke. If the Lord wants to protect you, nobody can harm you. And if the Lord wants to harm you, nobody can protect you. The fact that he survived 4 additional days, hearing the Krishna Katha or the name of the Lord, is just Lord Krishna's will. Just because you take up the life support system doesn't mean that your life and death. Nobody can give up his life, nobody's life can end without the sanction of the Lord. So that's a very important lesson. The second most important lesson, the realization that I learned is, now see what happened when Deep Prabhu left his body. When the life support system was taken out, the room was full of people. There were devotees, there were family members, his wife, there were his sister, there were so many of them. But at the time when he left his body, there was no one. His sister was there, but I don't know how much of difference could have made, but practically speaking, there was no one. But the most important lesson is, we must spend all our life cultivating so many friends, relatives, children, wealth, education, prosperity, but at the time of the death, everything is taken away. Nothing matters. What really matters is the holy name of the Lord. You may have all of these things, family, friends, relatives, very nice position in the company, you could be the Prime Minister of UK, but at the time of death, if you don't have the holy name with you, it's all useless. On the other hand, if you just have the holy name and don't have anything else, you have everything. What is a prime example? Very good example, our Srila Prabhupada. When he came to US in 1965, at the age of 69, what did he have? He had no family with him, he had no friends with him, he had no disciples, even his godbrother did not support him. He came on a cargo ship, not even a passenger ship, forget about first class flight. Cargo ship, he came alone, suffered 2 heart attacks. He had nothing, not even money, only 40 Indian rupees. But what did he have? He had holy name in his tongue, he had Srimad Bhagavata, and he had the faith and instruction of his Guru. And after 1 year of struggle, he did the first public Harinam Kirtan at Thompson Square Park. And from there, look at where ISKCON is today after 50 years. All by the power of telling the holy name of the Lord. Srila Prabhupada has nothing. I'm mentioning this because 2 days ago we celebrated Disappearance Day. Right? I mean, it's so timely. It's such an important lesson. We waste so much of our time in so many material things, knowing that, as Yudhishthira Maharaj said, that we think we are going to live forever, and we accumulate all these things, but none of them are going to stay with us. Look at Deep Prabhu, we have so many friends, so many devotees, so many family members, so many extended family, but who was with him at the time of death? Just the holy name of the Lord. And I think it was a desire maybe. He said, Lord, when I give up my body, let there be nobody around, just the holy name of the Lord. Otherwise, why would you stay an additional four days? Typically, people like to live in the presence of their family and friends. But pure devotees, they want to live when only with the holy name of the Lord. Another prime example that happened in pandemic 2 years ago. A very saintly personality in ISKCON, His Holiness Bhakti Swami Maharaj. He gave up his body 2 years ago. That was the peak of pandemic. He was such a powerful, attractive personality in ISKCON. He has a very big guru, disciple of Srila Prabhupada. He has built such a huge temple in Ujjain. He has so many disciples, so many followers. And he was such a loved, respected personality. Srila Prabhupada loved him so much, right? But what did he decide to do at the time of leaving up his body? He said, I don't want any of these things. I don't want this. I don't have any attachment to temple. I don't want my disciples. I don't want my followers. I said, I'll go to a remote place and just depend on the holy name, take shelter of the holy name, and give up my life. Because Krishna gives that power to the pure devotee that you decide when you want to live. I'm not going to interfere in your life and death situation. You are the pure devotee, the life and death is on hand. You decide how you want to live, when you want to live, where you want to live. And His Holiness Bhakti Charu Maharaj came here. He said, I don't want anything. In one of the hospital rooms in Florida, he just left his body peacefully. There were no disciples, no followers, no friends, no god brothers, nobody, because it was peak of pandemic, nobody was allowed. Because he just depended on the holy name and his guru. Right? So that's the topic of my talk today, that we should take shelter of the holy name. It's good. We have family responsibilities, we have worldly responsibilities, we have jobs, we have our career. It's all good. They are good in its own place. But deep down within the core of our heart, we should learn how to take shelter of the holy name of the Lord. I mean, what is the use of this life? We spend the whole life chanting the holy name of the Lord, but still we haven't established the sambandha of the holy name. Right? Look at qualification. We have no qualification. Can we see Krishna face to face? We don't. I don't see Krishna face to face. Can I touch him? I'm not able to touch him. Can I touch his lotus feet? I cannot touch his lotus feet. I don't know, because I don't see Krishna in person. Right? Can I smell the fragrance of his transcendental body? I cannot. But Krishna is so powerful. He said, Koli Kale Naam Rupe Krishna Avatar. In this age of Kali, Krishna comes as the holy name. Remember, the holy name is more powerful than Krishna himself. I never went to the altar to serve the deities. Only after my initiation I am allowed to go to the altar and serve the deities. That means deity worship, it's not meant for everybody. You have to be Brahmin initiated. Only then you become qualified. Right? But the holy name is available to everyone. It's available easily, it's available to everyone, and the tongue to chant is available. Even if you don't have any beats, that's fine. You can just chant with your tongue. So devotees, the lesson is we should really learn how to take shelter of the holy name of the Lord. When we are chanting it has benefits. But are we ready to fully take shelter of the holy name? Are we ready to surrender to the holy name? And what is the test? The test is, Krishna may say, you know what do you want? Do you want the holy name or do you want fame, prosperity, wealth? Can you choose? Do you want green card or do you want the holy name? He will put us to test. He will put us. Do you want a nice job or do you want the holy name? Do you want a beautiful spouse or do you want the holy name? That's why Mahaprabhu says in Sikshastaka, na dhanam, na janam, na sundarim. I don't want any of this, my Lord. All I want is unalloyed devotional service to you. So that test will come. If you are faithful to the holy name. If you are not serious, then Krishna will not test you. But if you are serious, Krishna will test you. Let me see how serious you are for the taste of the holy name. He will test you. Question is, at that moment of decision, can you take the right decision? Right? So that's important. That's why Mahaprabhu says, in Bhagavatam he said, Yajanti sumedasa. That the holy name, the chanting of the holy name of the Lord is only taken up by the highly intelligent people. Sumedasa. Medasa means intelligent, Su means very intelligent. You should be super intelligent to make the right choice. Oh Krishna, I don't want anything. I don't want my family, I don't want my friends, I don't want the very nice future for my kids if I have the holy name. So are you ready to take the decision? So that's why we should really take shelter of the holy name. We should read books on the holy name. We should go to some nice holy name retreat, just to get more appreciation for the holy name. But this is the only opportunity I have got. In the lower species of life, they cannot chant the holy name. Animals cannot chant the holy name because they just don't have the cognitive ability and the ability to talk. They cannot chant the holy name. Even the heavenly planets, there's too much of enjoyment. There's so much of enjoyment that they don't chant the holy name. So the human form of life is very rare, and it's the only in this life that you can chant the holy name of the Lord, right? And this don't think that okay, I'll do this in my next life. There's no guarantee you'll get a human birth in the next life, right? Because we are transmigrating through 8.4 million species of life. We have been animals, we have been trees, we have been ants. I don't know what else we have been, but only this rare human form of life we have been given this opportunity. Very simple formula: chant the holy name. Krishna is not saying perform elaborate sacrifices. Krishna is not saying do meditation for 10,000 years. Krishna is not saying do these huge sacrifices or deity worship. He just says chant the holy name. And when you chant the holy name, you should chant in your heart, right? One of the very beautiful verses there. I will end this in 2 minutes. কৃষ্ণ তোমার হন যদি বলে একেবার মায়া বন্ধ হইতে কৃষ্ণ করে তারে পার. So this is a very sweet verse in second Charitamrita where he says, Krishna tomar hon. If somebody chants sincerely and faithfully and say, Krishna, from today I'm yours. Just say once, Krishna tomar hon, Krishna I'm yours. Jodi bole, if he says, ekbar, he says ekbar, just once, if he says, what happens? Maya bondho hoite. From the material entanglement, Krishna kore tare par, he delivers him from material enjoyment. So Krishna promises, right? Krishna said, Sarva dharman parityajya mam ekam sharanam vraja. Krishna says, Saranam to me in Bhagavad Gita. And same Krishna, in Kali Yuga, he comes with the holy name. Kolikale Nam Rupe Krishna Avatar. The same Krishna appears as the holy name. So that means, Sarva dharman parityajya nam ekam sharanam vraja. Because we don't have access to Krishna directly, so we have access to the holy name. We say, Sarva dharman parityajya nam ekam sharanam vraja. You just surrender unto my holy name. And I will deliver you from all sinful reactions. And what is the proof? Ki muta Shraddha Agrina. Sukdev Goswami says, Ki muta, where is the doubt? Shraddha Agrina, that if you chant faithfully and offenselessly. Sukdev Goswami is saying this, he is giving that Ki muta, why are you fearing, why are you doubtful that you will be delivered? So dear devotees, just to conclude, so we have only about a week left in this Kartik month. So let us try to get deeper into the chanting of the holy name. Let us chant few extra rounds, and let us try to develop the relationship with the holy name. What does this holy name mean to us? What does it mean to me? How can I surrender to the holy name? Do I have full faith in the holy name? How can I take shelter of the holy name? And once we do that and chant in that mood, our life will be successful. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Thank you so much, Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki, Nitai Gaur Premanande.
Premananda Prabhu ki.
We have no time for questions, so we can ask it. Okay. So unfortunately, we have no time for questions. It's already 12:30 past. We'll all stand up when the chanting of the holy name of the Lord, congregational chanting. Okay, Hare Krishna. Thank you so much for attending.
Prabhu, with your lecture, there shouldn't be any questions.
What?
With your lecture, there shouldn't be any questions.
There should be.
There should not.